Okay, everyone, we're going to start with round two. Um, where we're going to talk about off the grid country living in the country. We covered most of it in the previous thing because of the questions that led to other things being discussed. So I'm not going to spend a very in detail time on this. I'm rather just going to give an overall concept and then I'm going to show you things because we are having other workshops where we will cover these things in depth also. Okay, so country living in the country is now a very different concept to city living or concrete jungle living or whatever you want to call it, but being stuck in the system. Being stuck in the system is very limiting as to your choices, your resources, and so forth. Country living, however, gives you a lot more leeway as to what it is that you can do, but there's a lot of things that you need to consider. Okay, so the things you need to consider: money is the biggest thing. Do you have the financial resources to build the dream or plan that you want? Okay, land, location is also important. How much land are you going to get? These are things you need to consider. Access to water. Is there access to water where you are considering? So when you are looking into the different locations, things like access to water is what you need to consider. The climate you need to consider. Is it a very rainy region? Is it a dry region? Are there natural disasters that occur? So environmental impacts, climatic impacts will determine the type of system that you actually set up, like we covered previously. Your soil quality is very important. You need to understand the soil of where you are going to live because you are going to be living off that soil. Okay, so if you still need to put a lot into the soil to build it up to a point where it is good enough for planting your vegetables to be nutritious, that might also be a no-no. Sun exposure. Is there enough sun exposure for your solar system? If there's no sun, solar is not going to work. You need to find an alternative. Maybe wind could work if there's wind. Maybe rivers, streams, those types of things could work because you could then also use a windmill type of concept to generate electricity. So again, you need to understand what are the environmental factors that could impact how you set up your off the grid. The proximity to town is very important to get what you need, to get what you want to build to your area. You don't want to be so in the gedoemes that the truck can't get to you with all your supplies, or getting your supplies is going to cost more than the house you want to build. You need to be reasonable with what you are doing. Also, you don't want to be too far out of the city. Emergencies happen all the time. Things break all the time, and if you don't have the knowledge to fix, or if it's bigger than what you know, how are you going to get experts in how are you going to actually deal with these issues? You know, we want to be off the grid, but sometimes these are realities we need to consider because we do need the resources that we can only find in the city, unless you want to live like the Amish. But if you want today's comfort, creature comfort, so to say, it requires the technology that goes along with it, and those resources you can only find in the city, unfortunately. So the animals, the type of animals or wildlife that is around, or the type of animals that you actually want to grow on your farm, you need to consider that. Will it be conducive for the type of animals that you want to grow? Because some animals can't survive in certain conditions. The wildlife in the area might be too big a threat to you and your setup that you want. They might kill all your livestock. They might pose serious threats on your person, on your family, that you rather don't do it. So that's also very important. The laws of that area, because it's in a country, whether it's very far into the country, it is still governed by the country's laws, and each province has its own legislation. So where is it that you are building or looking at? Do you understand the laws that govern that area? Because that will impact the choices you make and the type of build or infrastructure you want to set up. What type of shelter or building are you going to build? Because that also is determined by what you want to achieve. Because when you are going into country living, you need to be able to be sustainable in terms of an income, because you're not in a city anymore, so you can't have that type of job. So whatever you decide to bring your bread and butter, is it sustainable? Does it work with the type of structure that you are setting up? Do you have to build your structure in order for that to work? Those are things you need to consider. The power generation source, is it going to work in that area? That will also be determined by the environmental impacts, the climate, how far it is from the city will also be determined by that. So you need to think about those things. Your food, will it be a very costly thing to set up your garden? How do you want to set up your garden? Is that going to be your source of income? So is that your main resource then that you are living off? So how big is your garden? Does it have all the amenities required for it to grow proficiently? How are you going to store your power once you've generated your power? The batteries that you store it in is also very important. Sometimes you need to build separate, almost like housing structures, just for the storage of your power alone. If you build such a big power system, energy system, that you generate enough for yourself and for surrounding communities, that could also be a source of income. You could sell electricity to others depending on how big your system is. So that's also one way to look at something. And your waste disposal, septic tanks, or what is it that do you actually want to do your own piping underground? Because do you feel you want to make it as comfortable and convenient as possible? Those are also things you need to consider. Your health is very important. So do all these structures speak to a healthy lifestyle, a healthy living? Most times it does, but because of our comfortability, those things are not always positive for our health, and we don't realize that. And then communication. We live in the world of communication, AI, technology. We can't get out of it unless you want to have an Amish type of lifestyle. That's fine, that's up to you, then that's not an issue. But you still need to have some form of communication. If you are very aware of the agenda, do you want to break from that system? Then what is your backup system that you are going to use? Because how do you communicate with your people? How do you communicate with your neighbors? How do you communicate with someone in a survival situation or in an emergency situation? So there are off-grid concepts that you can use. Old stuff like CB radios, preferably not satellites because it's linked to the system. Walkie-talkies, but that only has a short range. So look into all these different interventions of the type of communication that it is that you want to actually set up. There are certain Wi-Fi off-the-grid systems that you can set up, but again, it takes a lot of research and the right people that know how to chippo or work around certain things. So once again, knowledge is power. Your game plan is very important. So you have to plan, you have to research You have to know what it is you want to achieve. You have to then go and, like the gentleman over here, he was telling me he's been going to look at various places to see what works, what doesn't work, off-grid systems. And like the other lady, where is she now? Anyway, she also advised that it is best to also see how other off-grid farms in the country are surviving, because what works for you in this situation doesn't work for that one. That one might have a power system that is generated from a water source, a big lake, a stream, something like that. The other one might be a complete battery source, lithium batteries or whatever, that can power forever and a day. Another one might be actual solar, and so on. They have different types of systems that works for them. So going to research and find out and seeing how their system setup is will be very beneficial for you. It will give you ideas, it will grow your knowledge, and it will help you then sort of get to what will be best for you and your situation. But ultimately, what is it that you want to achieve from your off-the-grid living? What is the type of income source that you want to build? Because you have to have one if you're going to be off the grid. So is it sustainable? And then you need to build your structure or your setup around that, because you need to live. So how are you going to live? Unless, of course, you just want to live off the land by ensuring you have enough electricity when needed, you have water, and you have food. And that's all you need. You don't need money, because you have your basics. Not everything, but you have your basics to survive. You don't need communication, you don't need the modern things of today. So if that's the way you want to go, that's fine. But most people, especially when they have a big family, or they want more of their family members, whether it's brothers, sisters, and their kids, those types of things, you have to have an income source, because there are certain things that we will need from shopping resources, unfortunately. Okay, unless you are fully equipped with knife making, with making your own sanitary wear, with those types of everyday basic things that we are so used to buying, then it's really Amish living, you know. So you need to see what it is you want to do. But again, learning these skills is very important, because we don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen. Even if you are just living with, tomorrow there could be a grid collapse. What does a grid collapse actually mean? It means there is no electricity anywhere. So for the whole grid to come back online might take, for example, if it's off the grid for 3 days, getting those systems back online might take 3 weeks. So that means the pumping of your sewage is only going to come back in 3 weeks. Pumping of your water only in 3 weeks. Your electricity only in 3 weeks. How are you going to get your food? Because you don't have gardens. There is no pumps for the petrol to get the trucks to move the food from the farmer to the shop. So supply chain is non-existent. So it might be one thing, but it impacts every single thing that we use in our lives today. Are we prepared? Do we have the skills to survive in such a situation in our current state? So that is why I say, yes, you can prepare all these things, but knowledge and equipping yourself with the skills of, if that happens, what do I do? So yes, you set up your off-the-grid system, but you need to know how to live without it. It is very important, because we don't know what is coming. So I'm now going to, I'm not going to go into all of this, because we touched most of that. And obviously also you need to just try and equip yourself with mechanical skills. Should the pump break, should whatever break, your car, whatever, you can't get to the nearest town, maybe the nearest town is 2 days away. And so what are you going to do? You need to have the rudimentary basics of how to do that. and then you can survive until help comes if you have reached out for help. Any questions before we start demonstrations?
So is there like a network that we can like tap into to go see these off-grid farms or places? Is there any contacts you can share?
That's a dangerous question. Uh, there isn't like set networks. It's more about, to be safe, you need to do a lot of your own research, because a lot of what you are doing is tracked. So you don't want to overexpose yourself because you want to be safe. But there are certain like groups right now, before danger, or if there's danger coming, before things that might happen comes along, there are certain groups that share this type of information. I could maybe share a link or two via Nasira, and then we see how that goes. But I can't say too much about that.
There are a lot of groups. Okay. WhatsApp, there are a lot of religious groups and that.
So I don't know if maybe we want to start a group, a WhatsApp group here. I don't know if you're open to that, where we can share information around those types of things. I don't know, it's up to everybody. You can decide what you want to do. We can just wait till the next workshop.
One speaker, please.
The tins that you have now, so some culture with this plastic coating.
Yes, that is true.
It's coated with BPA.
Yes, that is true. There are certain things you can't get away from. However, the iron is important for the soil. So just hope and pray the microbes are strong enough to sort of kill or nullify the effects of those types of things.
Finding microplastics.
Yes.
Arteries in your body. No, but in your body, in your arteries.
Yes. Yes. So no, you can't. Unless you live under a rock like a hermit, and you go completely Amish, and you don't use the things we are used to using today, like plastic, and you go to your cast irons and you go to those things. But again, start now. Start trying to implement those things now. I do and have been speaking on Radio 786. I think I've spoken 5 times already. One of the things that we covered was microplastic waste. So we cover different topics around sustainability. So listen to that. You might get one of those things.
What time is
When
that?
is that?
What time is it?
When they ask me, it's normally twice a month, but there isn't a set date. But it's the 3 to 4 slot.
So people who
On
are
a Monday.
interested in the off-grid thing, my brother-in-law about 3-4 years ago, he got land from the government. So he gets it with a 100-year lease, and it's free. It's literally free, and they, according to the agreement, they will pay you out for any improvements you do on the land. Ek weet nie hoe waar hy gaan wees as wat in 100 jaar se tyd sien of it actually gaan werk. But in the meantime, in this, it's in Mamre side, out that side. So there was also, there's quite a few places where they gave people land, and the agreement is that you have to make improvements on the land. So he's set up some like wooden cabin housing. He runs the mosque in Lost City, so he's access.
Okay, so now we're going to do certain demonstrations. What I want to show you is just the basic rudimentary biofiltering, which just is how to filter water in any situation. I want to show you how to make spice salt from something that grew in your garden and you just dried it out. I want to show you how to make soapy water from plants that grow in your garden. And then I just want to show you a type of heating system that you can use. Okay, so all you need is any size of bottle, preferably 2 liters or 1,5 or 1 liter.
Is this a
So-
filtration system? Sorry, is this a filtration system?
Yes, biofiltering. So you would just strip it from all these things, because all these things also add to the microplastics. Unfortunately, when you are using these things, there will be plastic that will turn into microplastic that will be in your water, but hopefully your charcoal or ash will filter as much as possible because of how that works.
Can we use a water, I mean a glass bottle then?
No, because you need to cut this.
Oh.
You can use plastic containers, so you can like buckets also. So you can make it according to your size that you need. If you have a water tank that you are just catching rainwater in, you can then make a little hole in it, make a little bucket system, putting buckets on top, each one with these things in it, and then it will filter the water as much as possible, and then you capture that water, use it for your household. So there's clever ways you can work around things and see what works for
Are
you.
you saying we put the buckets inside the JoJo or outside?
No, outside.
Outside the
So
JoJo.
you would have your JoJo,
Mm.
you would have your buckets, whether it's 10 liter buckets, 5 liter, whatever size you can get. So one would have, they would have your different layers. You would stack it on top of each other. You would connect the pipe from the JoJo into that so that the water can then flow. Try to use gravity as much as possible so that you don't need to get a pump to pump the water, and then it will filter through, and then you have a little tap at the bottom, whatever you can afford, and then you capture that water and use it. Okay, so you would then make a hole. Obviously, if you have a pocket knife or something like that, even better. But I mean, you are now just basically using what you have at home. So because I do workshops in the communities for very poor people, they don't have a lot of resources. So they literally have to use what they have to do these types of interventions. And at the end of the day, I suppose it's better to learn that way in the event should something happen and you don't have access to these fancy knives and fancy things that make life more comfortable. Okay, so you would put this in here. So just make sure that it fits. Now you would layer this. Start with a cloth, any type of cloth, or you can also use cotton wool, depending on what you have access to. Cotton wool is more preferable. Cloth is also good, it doesn't matter, you can use both. But I don't want to get the cloth too dirty, so I'm going to use the charcoal, the cotton wool. So you would put this there. That would be the last filtering process. Charcoal or ash from the fire. When you are making ash from the fire to either use in your garden, because the ash works the same as charcoal. When you are burning wood, always use wood that is untreated, like I mentioned before, because then you can reuse that ash for your garden, for whatever charcoal needs you have, so that you don't poison yourself or your vegetables that you're busy with. So this is ash from a fire. Sorry, I'm missing. Whoop. Then you would take fine sand. And like I said, you can make it as big as you want to. So now normally you would use gravel, but I don't have gravel. So again, you need to understand the concept so that you can see how you can supplement or use different things when you don't have the actual stuff that is required. So I brought some grass and I brought some stones. So we will put the grass down, and this grass is called crabgrass. It's actually medicinal. It helps with intestinal issues. On here you will see these little things, and they grow everywhere, right? They grow like from a single thing, and then they grow out like that, right? So here's it now. So you'll see they have these little stalks on them with these brown things. These little brown things you can actually take off, and then you can either place it in the sun, in a dehydrator, or in your oven at a low temperature. Dry it out, and you can actually use it as flour. Okay, the grass is also edible, but it doesn't taste nice. So it is edible should you ever need to, use that sort of resources. You never know where you land, just so you know.
Is that grass that grows wild? That used to. Not so much anymore.
Well, they grow on pavements everywhere. This I took from our pavement. So,
So you just need to know gravel. You need to recognize it.
yes.
Instead of grabbing it,
Or you can put this and gravel.
Oh,
And then I just have big stones which also act as the filtering. The more filter layers you can put in, the better. But I mean, this is now just the basics. For basic survival, and obviously for your Jojo tanks, whatever, you'll use better resources. But this is just for demonstration purposes, because remember what you're learning here is for survival, basically. So these rudimentary concepts you can then use in whatever situation. Knowledge is power. If you know the basics, you can then use the basics for any type of situation. You just need to learn to think outside of the box.
so the sand, can it be any sand? Or must it be like beach sand?
Now, any sand, you need to have a layer of fine sand, and you need to have a layer of gravel or like rocky sand, something like that. Stones, and then your charcoal. That's your basic layers. So then you would take your dirty water and you would pour it, and then you would let it do its thing. So it would then start filtering through the different layers. So as it each layer filters different types of stuff, different types of microbes. Obviously, the finer the filter, the more it will filter. So the top layer is for all your big debris and big hojas and all of those things. And then as it moves through the gravel and the sand, it refines it more and more. And then once it gets to the charcoal or the ash, it's then by the microorganisms and impurities and toxins that it then filters that out. What should then start dripping is clear water, depending on what type of water. If it's black water, it might not be clear water, but it should be clear water, and then that you then boil, okay, because you just never know. So that is that. The next one,
So can one use something like that for washing machine water? With the washing, the remnants of washing powder?
use what?
I mean
No, preferably not, but the concept should work. If you're thirsty and all you have is water from your washing machine.
No, I mean not to drink it, I mean for the plants. Because I know even the washing machine, you can't really throw it in the plants.
Yes,
because of the
that's
washing
grey
powder.
water. You don't need to filter it. You can throw it as is onto your plants,
So
not
doesn't
your
it impact
vegetables. Okay, so because there's chemicals, you don't throw it on your vegetables, but you can throw it on your plants that you're not going to eat. Unless
No,
you're
that's-
using it for medicine, then also no. First filter it, and then you throw it.
So that's the question. My
Yeah,
question was,
but
can
if you
I-
just have grass in a normal garden, then you can use grey water as is. But it depends on the purpose
Yes.
of what you grow. That will determine the filtering process, if any.
So that they will extract the iron out of the water.
Iron, maybe not so much, but it should extract most elements.
About the break in the washing machine water, does the chemicals, the washing powder, whatever, does it eventually break down over time and become like neutralized or?
No, it will be like the pharmaceutical waste.
Okay, so you want to
They
look
can't
for
get it
alternatives.
out. Certain things you can't get out, and like your microplastics, you can't get it out of the water. So that's why your end use is very important. Will determine what type of filtration system you're going to use.
Does it depend on your washing powder as well?
You do get biodegradable, sort of chemical-free washing powder that you make.
Baking soda that you
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So yes, it depends on
That
the
would be
type of.
okay.
That will be fine. Yes.
First find out what it does to your washing machine.
That's also true. Yes.
And
But
dishwashing
generally, baking soda shouldn't cause.
Yeah.
And I can't do this experiment. Sorry. This was the peels of the onion that was dehydrated and the garlic that was dehydrated to make salt.
Okay, but you can explain it.
Okay,
I
simple.
will explain it. Yes.
Simple, yeah.
So I was going to, you then can either use a blender or a coffee grinder or something to grind it as fine as possible. After that, you use a crucible because that makes it into a finer powder. And there's some fennel, dried fennel in here. If you can see, you would then grind it down as much as possible. You would then add some salt, grind it down as well, or put all of this in your blender, and the mixture then you can use as seasoning salt for your food.
So the dried onion peels.
Yes. So instead of throwing your onion peels and your garlic peels away, you dry it out. And because it's got lots of nutritional value,
I suppose wash it with
soak it in some bicarbonate of soda. So anything actually that you're taking out of your garden, because of what they spray in the air, there's also a big thing with in urban areas they spray glyphosate for the weeds. That unfortunately also goes on your vegetables and whatever you are growing. So whenever you are foraging or picking something, always just wash it off or lay it in some bicarb water. Few seconds, maybe 1 minute max. That will then wash off all of that debris and then you use it. So onion skins have lots of medicinal properties. You can use it for inflammation and lots of other things. And it's also very healthy. It's got a lot of nutrients in it as well, and garlic. It can also be used as a natural pesticide for your crops. Garlic skin and onion skins, especially the rind, where it comes out, that you always cut off and throw off, the base, that you put in there, and then you just let it stand for a few days, and that you can spray over your vegetables and so forth as a natural pesticide or herbicide or whatever you want to call it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you, this is this plant. This plant is a yucca. Yucca. Y-U-C-A. Double C-A, sorry. The yucca plant.
Is that the spider plant that the
It looks like the spider plant.
the spider?
It is not.
bigger usually, isn't it? The yucca. The bigger one.
It grows very big, but every plant starts small. So this is still small, and it grows very big.
hen and chicken that we normally used to call hen and chicken.
We think so.
The hen and chicken that we
We call it the hen and chicken plant.
I've never heard of that. So
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know what.
It's a house plant, looks like that.
I
Until
don't know what
will know
that is.
the
Sorry.
colloquial name.
But anyway, this you find in a lot in the desert, in lots of dry areas.
But then it's a aloe.
No, it's not an aloe. It's not a succulent. Okay, I don't know what the hidden chicken is.
The little chicks are hanging down.
Oh, like a fountain type of thing. Okay.
As you see over there, that's the head and the cheeks around.
You learn something new every day. Okay, so this is a yucca plant. The root itself is what they mainly use in arid areas as a saponification agent. So what saponification basically means is that it can make little bubbles. And how the bubbles work of soap, basically it's called a mycel, or however you want to explain. Have you heard of micelle water? Okay, you use it to take off your makeup and so on. The concept is the same with soap. It is the bubble. So here's your dirt. The bubble comes, it engulfs the dirt and it washes it away. That is called the micelle. And so soap has saponification agents which create those micelles. And that is the soapiness. So some plants have saponins in them which allows them to form foaminess that you can use in situations to clean. Okay, so this is one of them. The yucca plant is one of them that you can use. English ivy is another one. Back in the day, thousands of years ago, they used to use that as the detergent. English ivy. You just cut it up and mix it with water and it creates soap. So this is the same concept. You cut your plant and all you do is you scrape off the skin. As much skin as you want to. Okay, so you see this green? And you put it in some water. Okay, this I made on Friday, which was still October. It's also this amount. Put it in some water and you shake it. Can you see all that soapiness?
Skin, is it the skin that's being scraping off the
Yes, you're scraping off the plant, and the green here that you see, this is what you then put in the water. Okay, the root you can also put in the water, but you don't want to destroy the root. Okay, so because the root has more saponins in it, so it would be a lot more soapy. So this you can use in emergencies. It's not as soapy as dishwashing liquid. Chemicals always is more potent than the natural thing, but it does the job. Okay, because of the saponins in here. So you can see this foam, and this foam is what will, these are the micelles, they will clean the dirt.
Can you use it on your body and your hair?
Preferably not, but if push comes to shove, yes.
Okay.
This I made December 22. There's still foaming action
And
happening.
it doesn't go off or something.
No.
No smell.
Doesn't get slimy.
Yeah.
Does it look slimy? I haven't opened it.
And that's just water and that
This is just,
in a
yes.
sealed sort of bottle.
Yes. This has been sealed since 2022. I haven't touched it.
Oh.
I've just used it for demonstration purposes. But you don't see any sliminess. You just see the bubbles. You just see the bubbles.
Is this just for sort of hands and dishes?
Dishes preferably. Maybe you're washing. If you make enough to clean your washing, you can then use it for that also. And wash your hands in emergencies, whatever the case may be. So yeah, in other workshops we will show you how to make actual soap and so on.
I've always wanted to know what does soap water actually look like. The plants, soap water.
Oh, soap wood. It's not indigenous to South Africa, so it's very difficult to find here. There's also a there's a type of ginger plant, ginger shampoo plant that you can actually squeeze the plant and then wash your hair with it and your body. Also not indigenous, so very difficult to find and quite expensive for those
What about sunlight
purposes.
soap?
Yeah, but that's chemicals.
Is it the red one that you squeeze?
Yes,
I saw it on the video.
yeah. So if you can get that plant, great, because then you have a natural soap that you can use on your body for your washing, whatever. But to know these things, because you don't know where you're going to end up, you need to learn to identify various plants, what their properties are, and how you can use them. So this is one of them, emergency uses. Okay, this is the snake plant or the mother-in-law's plant. From here you can also scrape off like that, and then it comes out as little threads. It looks almost like this, but actual threads, and that you can actually twine into cordage, and cordage is just ropes. So in any situation, if you're needing to make a rope, this is the best plant for it. But this also has medicinal properties. Okay, so it can help with a couple of ailments. So I'm not going to go into all of that now. That's for another day. We don't want to do everything all at once. Okay, so this unfortunately now can't happen. And then I'm just going to show you this. Okay, so this is called a hobo stove. So it's just a tin that had canned peaches in that I saved. You make a little opening here and you puncture little holes in because oxygen feeds fire. This is how you put it. Now the fire source,
Excuse me, is the top still on or is it open?
Yes.
Oh, it's still on.
still on. Okay, so that is how you put it together. Then you take a tuna tin and you take strips of cardboard. Preferably not cardboard with lamination on.
Like
Okay,
the toilet roll in a
thicker cardboard, box cardboard.
Corrugated cardboards.
Those types of things. You will cut strips that is about this wide, and then you will roll it up. Okay. Then you will put it in this. And it-
Packet type basically.
Yes.
Okay.
So you push as much as possible in here to fill the whole gap. Then what you can do is you can then take your old oil, save your old oil, and you pour it over here. Okay? And then now looking for something, so I'm not on the tablecloth, but anyway, or you can take candles, melt it down, throw it over there, and then you light it. It's a bit windy here. I don't want to take the chance, but you get the gist of it, okay?
yeah, do it here on this. You can put it on the bed.
But the wind is coming through, so I don't want to take the chance. Things might light up. So anyway, once this is lit, you put it in there, okay? And then you can put a pan or something on here and fry.
Sure.
Cicely, what did you put up?
Nothing.
It's
Oh, this is cotton pads. So your nail polish, when you are taking your nail polish off and it's soaked with what you've taken off, that you can also reuse. Put it on there to start the fire, and then once the fire is started, the oil in, because now the cardboard is doused in oil, it will then set a light, and that will be your fuel
So
source.
like a fire starter basically.
Yes, it's a fire starter. So there's various fire starters. There's also a workshop for that. Lots of different things that you can use.
How long will that release
Yes.
last?
Because it's oil, it won't go out until you put it out. So it's not like it burns down. It burns and
That's
burns
because
and
you're
burns.
compressing the cardboard in there and the oil is laid in there, so it takes a while for it to burn actually down. So if you're not
You'll be able to
using it, you've
complete
done what
a
you
meal on it.
use,
Yes.
You can just flip the top over and it fills it.
Yes. So when you, yeah.
Pan over onto the tuna tin and to seal it up.
So for example, you will take another can, preferably a little bigger, and you'll put it over it to cover it to kill the oxygen. So that there's no oxygen, it will then go out. Okay? So there's various, so this will always be your base fire starter. There's various ways to do your fire starter, but this is the best. So always think, try not to throw all your tins away because you can always repurpose it like that. This will then be your cooking stove and you can then make a meal, and one day we can make something on the hobo stove. There are various different types of stoves. I'm sure you've heard of a rocket stove.
Yes.
Okay, that's the most common one that most people know about, but that you have to build and construct, and even if you make it from tins, it's quite a process. This is a quick and easy way. The bigger, obviously the bigger the tin, the bigger the surface area, the bigger the pot or whatever you can put on there. Okay, so that is the demos for today. I did show you over there with that one how you can grow just using a bottle. Same concept as this. You just cut the top off and then you put your garlic or your potato in here like that one over there. Fill the water and it will then start growing roots, and once it is rooted you can then plant it or keep it and keep it growing in there. Okay, that's
Sorry about the sweet potato. I've heard that you need to take the little plants, the plants off like these, and plant them, because if you plant this thing, then no sweet potatoes. So is that true? Because
well, actually you can plant this.
you need the little babies to make more sweet potatoes, not the.
Well, actually you can both.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So this you call it a stiggy. Okay, so it's like cutting off a planting thingy, and that you can preferably lay it in some water so it can root, and then you plant it. You can plant this whole thing, it will then produce more.
Lazy gardeners, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's the demos for today. Just a taster of the different workshops around these types of interventions, around equipping yourself with the knowledge that you need. Thank you.